A little bit late for the stream, but not too late. Just chilling. Looking at the various price points of cryptocurrency. So let's take a look at some charts real quick. Bitcoin 48.9, falling back a little bit below 49,000 after hitting 50,000 a little bit earlier this week, which was kind of cool. But not the craziest thing in the world. Still trading about sideways. Started the week at around like right below 50, went above 50, came back down, got down to 47, and now we're back above 49, just below 49 actually. So not that cool, but still cool-ish. But mostly just looking at the different tokens, trying to figure out what the big winners and losers over the past week have been, and like trying to figure out what these winners and losers actually do. So CeeLo, Arweave, I actually have no idea what Arweave is. Cloud storage. So it's interesting. Cloud storage, more or less. I mean, so SIA is another big gainer and loser over the past, or big gainer over the last week. So looks like a lot of cloud storage solutions. I mean, if I can figure out what Revain is. Okay, so this is a review aggregator? I don't understand why a blockchain is necessary. Get rewards for reviews. Okay, pretty cool. So it's like an RPG. Gain experience for writing reviews. And then I don't know what that XP does. So they gamify writing reviews. Interesting. Okay, let's find out what Arweave does. This is a top gainer over the last week. The permaweb. Interesting. So I'm going to start, I guess, a little bit by first talking about our good friend Stephen Deal, who this week basically, I mean, he's saying the same thing most days. This today, saying crypto tokens are the most predatory investment available to consumers. Sure. Everything about these alleged assets screams unsustainable bubble and insane risk, and will all end in tears. I've seen him tweet this like 10 times, like maybe the exact text. He always says it's going to end in tears. I don't know who he plans on making cry. But you know what? Tears. Oh, would you look at that? A text message from Fairfield Subaru. Just bought a Subaru, by the way. So. Oh, one concurrent viewer and one like. Hello, how you doing? Not sure who you are yet, but hey, throw a comment in the comment section. Ask me a question or something like that. Whoever you are, today, I'm just starting off again talking about Stephen Deal, who is always talking about how cryptocurrency will end in tears. I don't know. You could apply the same logic to probably the stock market right now and most investment schemes. I think what Stephen Deal fails to understand and doesn't want to understand is that value is based on belief. And a lot of people believe in cryptocurrency. And as long as they continue to believe in cryptocurrency and the technology continues to work, which it does, it will continue to retain value and continue to likely go up in value. Oh, hello. Nice to see you both. Taylor, good morning. Or good evening, I guess. And Chris, nice to see you. Again, Stephen Deal, perpetual crypto bear and one of the most insufferable people on the internet. And he, like, not only a crypto bear, but also just likes bears, which is maybe his only redeeming quality. Yeah, so this is his Twitter. And of course, he's got to start the week with, some ending in tears FUD, I suppose. Anyway, so what I want to take a look at is the top gainers and losers over the last week. Look at some of these and either figure out what it is that they do, or sort of start thinking about why it is that they're gaining so much, whether or not this is something that's being pumped, or whether or not it's the technology that actually makes sense and that we'll continue to see some upward movement over the course, like whether or not these are good investments. Of course, logical, the same thing always applies. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just an idiot who likes crypto and who's thought a lot about it. And so I'm going to apply some of that thinking here. And then we'll get into the news. We'll talk a little bit about the news. What concept? The idea of like looking at the top 10 coins and the gainers and losers of the week. Yeah, not a bad. I think it's going to be fun. So first is Cello. It was first at the time since, Arweave has since taken its top spot, which actually was, you can see this is this was the order of the top gainers over the past 7 days, like an hour ago when I pulled all these up. And so you see Arweave has had quite a bit of movement in the last hour. So we'll get there and figure out what it is they do eventually. But right now we're going to look at Cello. Cello is like a mobile payments platform and partnered with Coinbase. You can see some of their, they've been featured in all these publications and everything like that, but they have a mobile app and it's meant to be just like a payment solution, sort of, they don't have I don't believe it's an exchange. It's just like sort of a wallet that you can use to send coins. And you can actually get CELO, I think, by doing the education program in Coinbase. I don't know if they've discontinued it, but I got my first CELO just through doing like Coinbase's education program, answering like the quiz questions and everything like that. And I think they gave me like $5 worth of CELO, which is worth quite a bit more now. So CELO's doing quite well. Not sure why, like I don't know if they've shown up in the news recently or anything like that, or if people are just like, getting into them. But yeah, look, I mean, like fully doxed company. I think what they do makes sense. But I just see what they do as like being a bit redundant. Like they have this like CELO wallet, right? And they have integrations with all these other wallets and everything like that, and so you can and they're listed on major exchanges, notable exception, not on Gemini. So which to me says that they're trying to be a competitor in this space, and maybe Gemini hasn't vetted them or doesn't like them or whatever. But they're not on Gemini, which is interesting. But you can get some free CELO by signing up for Coinbase, which, obviously there's like a link in the description if you want to do that. And completing their like education program. I don't know if it's available as soon as you sign up, but it is available. It was available for me, after I had signed up for quite some time. And again, I'm not sure that they discontinued it or anything, but when I did it, which was about 2-3 months ago, they gave me free CELO. It was the most annoying free program to go through, because yeah, shout out to Coinbase Rewards. Exactly. It was the most annoying one to go through, because like you had to get like you had to download the app, you had to send it to someone else. You had to send a link, send a payment, all kinds of shit like that. So it's a little annoying to get, but hey, it's appreciated in value since then. So, all right. So next, let's look at Tezos. Now, Tezos is, I believe, another smart contract platform, or it might just be a pure NFT platform, but I guarantee they're pumping right now. They're smart contracts, a smart contracts platform. I guarantee they're pumping right now because they have a low transaction fee. And they offer, like, it's one of the biggest platforms for NFTs, and NFTs are just fucking going crazy right now. Like, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the news. But like, yeah, NFTs are going like hotcakes. Tezos is a place to host and mint NFTs that doesn't require as the gas fees are not as high as Ethereum. And that's largely due to the fact that their transactions per second are not as high as Ethereum. Like it's not being used as much as Ethereum is. And I don't know of any other projects that are built on Tezos besides some like NFT projects that are sitting on here. I'm pretty sure they're interoperable with some like Ethereum. Like you can send things to Ethereum contracts with it, and they'll be interoperable with Ethereum smart contracts. But smart contract platform pumping right now, likely due to the fact that it's that NFTs are doing so well. And you can see, prices going fucking crazy, up 37% this week, which is a bit wild. But that's sort of the market right now and as you can see, like this is sort of the structure of the market in general. What happens is like Bitcoin will pump. And when Bitcoin pumps, then it starts going sideways for a little while. So we saw this happen. It went from like 30,000 up to 50,000. And then we saw it go sideways, between 47, 49. We're a little bit below 49 right now. And while Bitcoin is going sideways, you see this movement into smaller cap tokens. And so you can see like when the 7-day, so like last week, the 7-day gainers, the biggest 7-day gains were all things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano was huge last week. Cardano's big again this week, but it's these altcoins. It's like they're like really excited about Bitcoin going up. They're either profit taking or whatever, or they're looking for something. Like they think that they've missed on Bitcoin. They think that they've missed on Ethereum, and so they're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get into a smaller token and and try and like put some money there, try to get some gains, on the back end. Because again, that's sort of the way the market works. Everything else is lagged a little bit from Bitcoin. I actually, in the near future, I'm going to be doing a correlation analysis on Bitcoin versus like some of the top altcoins to show that I've seen some data on this, but I want to like prove it myself. The correlation between altcoins and like Bitcoin is something like 96 to 97%. Very few break out from the movement of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the big name. It always has been, and it will be until something else, starts breaking that correlation cycle with Bitcoin. Like as soon as it breaks it, a lot of people talk about the flippening with ETH. They think that Ethereum is going to be the thing that breaks out and starts moving independent from Bitcoin. So its price movement will be independent of Bitcoin. But right now, it's still the same way. Bitcoin pumps, then everything else pumps. Then Bitcoin, will either continue to pump and we'll see the same cycle, or it'll go down and we'll see the same thing. We'll see huge losses in a lot of these altcoins. And so expect to, see at least some of these down by this, it won't be this high, but like, by 15-20% in next week. So, or if Bitcoin falls. So Tezos, competitor to Ethereum, which is another big market right now. Obviously Cardano is being helped by the, by this want to get out of Ethereum because the gas fees are so high. And actually, I haven't looked at them today. Let's see what they're doing. Let's see. Etherscan gas tracker. Wow, that's ridiculous. Yeah, so average gas fee of about 99 Gwei, which is, I would say like 3 or 4 times higher than I would ever be willing to make an Ethereum transaction with. But, people are making money, I suppose. You can see that the biggest mover is still 24.5% or 24.3% of these gas fees are being used on OpenSeas. And again, that goes to what I was saying earlier, that it's because NFTs are fucking huge. NFTs are big. Last 24 hours, 1 in 5 transaction fees was coming from OpenSea. And that's the OpenSea, just the transfer of tokens of NFTs, not the registry. Art blocks, right, is being minted and then posted to OpenSea. So you see a lot of this shit is art and NFTs, and they're fucking huge right now. So I don't know. I don't see them as an incredibly good investment, but I'm also not like an art collector. Some people are much better at art collection than me. But I'm going to take this opportunity just real quick to say, hey, if you're here, then please pay the like tax, like the video, so that we can start ranking better than Nate Martin, who is a monster. I know Taylor hates when I, make libelous attacks on Nate Martin, but I have information that he abducted Elizabeth Smart in the mid-90s. It's unconfirmed, obviously, but I've been told that he was the one that abducted Elizabeth Smart. She eventually escaped and made it back, thank God. But Nate Martin is a monster. Hey, thank you. So again, and by the way, I'm just going to keep on talking about these things. Yeah, right? It is warranted. First of all, I'm going to keep on talking about these things, but if you have any questions, throw them in the chat, absolutely, and I'll answer them when I see them. So, okay, so that's Tezos. Now let's talk about Revain. So Revain, not sure that I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is actually the first time I've ever looked at this token. And this is what it does, theoretically. It's a review writing platform. It's like, so it gets to this really interesting concept in cryptocurrency of reputation. Reputation is very important to identity verification in cryptocurrency. And you're going to start to see platforms rely a little bit more heavily on a user's reputation in order to accomplish a lot of like DeFi things, in order to be involved in like DAOs and various systems. Like reputation is going to become very important, and this is one of the first like pure reputation applications I've seen. Um, so they say, like it's e-commerce, you're reviewing things. I haven't signed up for it yet or figured out what it does, but I'm, just from, tabbing through it, looking at it a little bit. This is what they're doing is, you write a review, other people review your review to determine whether or not your review is useful. They use like artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to determine whether or not people's input is useful and whether or not they're just like bots designed to like write reviews. And then you're theoretically rewarded for that. I don't know what the return is or whether or not it would be worth it. It looks like a lot of these reviews revolve around crypto projects, which is kind of cool, actually. So if we can start to get, because like right now, Trustpilot is sort of the place to go if you're looking for reviews of crypto exchanges and everything like that. I don't know why it's only TonSwap, TonBridge, and TonCrystal that people are talking about. I guess they're talking about more, but like I have no idea what the fuck Ton is, but a lot of people are reviewing it apparently, and who knows? Maybe this is like a scam. It doesn't look like a scam, but I guess this website is like not that impressive. There's so much shit. Like, okay, so let's look at some reviews of NFT platforms. Oh, would you look at that? CryptoKitties, Ethermoon. Okay, all right. 12, 16, 5 reviews. Yeah, I'll have to go through and sign up for it and figure out whether or not it's worth writing reviews for. Because like obviously, like I'm making review videos right now. I could very easily write. Oh shit, I'm gonna write a Crypto.com review and just absolutely trash them. Ridiculous. Okay. Well, we'll get back to that. But either way, it's up 35% this week. I don't know, maybe valuable. Certainly something that I'm interested in checking out, but couldn't tell you for sure. So now let's get into Arweave. Arweave, and actually I'm going to bring Sia over as well, because Arweave and Sia are very similar platforms. So you can see up 55% this week. Sia also up 12%, which is not huge, but is pretty big. Funny story, I used to own millions of Sia coin because it's a very old project. And it's cloud storage, like their whole thing is providing cloud storage, a decentralized cloud storage, an architecture for I think they're like proof of space, and a proof of space algorithm. So like you have proof of work, which relies on ASIC chips typically, or GPUs. You have Monero's proof of work, which is CPU based, ASIC resistant. You have proof of stake, which is based on how many of the tokens you hold to verify. And then you have proof of space, which is like checks to see how much hard drive space you have. And I believe Sia is a proof of space blockchain. But yeah, they're doing decentralized storage. Same with Arweave. They're doing a decentralized storage, which is going to be big. It's meant to compete with like AWS, Google, all these like big cloud service providers, Microsoft. So like this space is dominated by just a few big players right now that likely collude to drive up prices as far as they can. And so as we start to see, like, I think that these are valuable projects, if they can be successful. I'm not making any statement as to whether or not I think these individual projects are successful. I sold out of Sia 4 years ago, unfortunately, or else, I would have hundreds of thousands of dollars this week, because it was fractions of a penny when I bought it. And it has since, now it's 2 cents, which is kind of crazy. So it's like a low cap token, 48 billion in circulation, and which brings their market cap to about 60 million, which is not, or I'm sorry, market cap to 1 billion, which is not high in terms of, like, you can see this is the 92nd ranked coin. Same with Arweave, 71st ranked coin, 1.4 billion. Just a little bit. So there's a lot of room, I think, for movement. I can't remember the number, but the cloud storage business has like a huge market cap, and if they can capture even a couple percentage points of the market share of cloud storage providers, then they will likely do pretty well. So that's Arweave and Sia. Again, maybe worth looking into a little bit more, but this is not meant to be like an in-depth analysis of like what they're doing, just sort of a tertiary analysis of like what it is they do, why it is they're doing what they're doing. Solana, we've talked a little bit about before. We actually talked in the last stream about Solana, and also a competitor to Ethereum, and a smart contract platform. They're doing well again this week, up almost 30%. And again, this goes, so far we've talked about, these gainers all fall into about three categories. Either they're cloud storage, right? Like Arweave or Sia, or they're competitors to Ethereum, smart contract platforms like Tezos, Solana, and Cardano, which we'll get to in a little bit. Actually, I don't think we're going to talk about Cardano almost at all, unless you have questions about Cardano. There's some news about Cardano, I think, somewhere in here. No, I actually don't think I put it in there, but so I'll just talk about it now. Cardano made their last testnet commit. So their final testnet commit happened a little bit earlier this week. And so they're going to be moving towards full release. Their main chain is going to have smart contracts theoretically in the very near future. So they're doing all that testing and everything. But Solana, also competitor to Ethereum, taking advantage of the fact that, as long as Ethereum gas fees stay high, we will continue to see other smart contract platforms that want to compete with Ethereum do pretty well. Because, gas fees, you just saw 100 Gwei, and that's after the appreciation of Ethereum. So it's like, a transaction, for instance, to unlock the Fox token that I'm liquidity farming right now would cost $30, $40, which is preposterous. It obviously depends on scale. If you have a couple $100,000, then $40 doesn't seem like that much. But if all you're investing is like $200, $300, small investors just can't work with Ethereum right now. And luckily, there's enough big investors to continue to keep demand high. But these competitors, Solana, Cardano, Tezos, they're going to try and eat up a lot of that market share over the next couple of months, as long as transaction fees are so high on Ethereum. If Ethereum had perfect transaction fees, you would see it dominate the market. If proof of stake comes along and it just works, and there's no hiccups, fees end up being like really low, then you're just going to see Ethereum dominate everything else, because most developers are developing on Ethereum. And maybe you'll see like Binance Smart Chain do well too, because Binance Smart Chain is a Solidity chain. They basically stole the Solidity code and made their own chain. And in that world, developers who learned on Ethereum might build things on Binance Smart Chain. But really, like, what you got to look at is, where are the developers moving? And so you're seeing some developers move to Cardano, but Cardano, is a Haskell-based language. I forget what it's called, Pluto or something like that. Whatever it's called. It's like, having to program websites in different languages, and if someone learned on Solidity, they're not going to then go and learn this Haskell-based language in order to start building on another chain, which I think is going to limit, like Cardano's rise to some degree, unless Ethereum fees stay as high as they are and Cardano can consistently keep fees down, in which case developers will just, because they're usable chains, because their projects will actually be able to do transactions on Cardano, they'll end up moving to Cardano. But, again, all that's sort of up in the air. Always Peace says, do you think XRP is good? I hate XRP. I've always hated XRP. XRP is... and not because, I'll tell you what I've told friends of mine in the past. Um, XRP, I hate XRP, does not mean it won't be valuable. XRP is meant to be a settlement layer between large financial institutions. So like Bitcoin, Ethereum, I think to some degree, but more so Bitcoin was built to be a competitor to the banking system and like the settlement layers of like Fedwire, Swift, SEPA, like all these like banking protocols. Bitcoin is supposed to be a alternative to. XRP has always built itself and always wanted to be what the like used by banks. Like they market to banks and their customers are banks. Because they want to, be able to maintain the system of banking that we have now, but make it a little bit more efficient. So, is it a good technology? Like, it depends on what you mean by good. Does it work? Yeah, I think it probably works. I wonder if banks will, we don't know what's going to happen with the lawsuit with the SEC right now, whether or not it's going to be settled and whether or not banks are even going to want to implement the sort of things that XRP is doing, because there's but yeah, it's like it works. It's just hard to say whether or not it's good that it works. I'm not a big fan, but I'm not a big fan for the reasons that it helps the banks rather than replaces them, and cryptocurrency to me is about replacing the banks. So is it good? Depends on what you mean by good. All right, let's get back to the 7-day. So that's Solana. Let's talk about Terra. So Terra, I believe, is a stable coin system, but Terra might just be is this another smart contract platform? Okay. Finder blog, join the community. I'm not quite sure what Terra does. Anchor protocol, stablecoin. Okay. So yeah, it's a stablecoin protocol. And yeah, it looks like they just have, it's like a vaguely smart contract platform. Revolves around stable coins. I don't know. I'm going to have to look more into it. I thought I knew what Terra does. I have never looked at this website before, so I'm going to have to read the white paper. Yeah, it's a stablecoin system. I don't know how they work because the stablecoin system I'm familiar with is MKR, which is doing really well this week if I can find it. Maybe just go back to market cap. The stablecoin system I'm most familiar with is MKR. I mean, I'm obviously very familiar with with Tether, but because Tether is a fucking joke. But I'm also very familiar with Maker. Down 7% this week, but over the course of the last month, it has been doing quite well. So you can see. Up to 3,600 from 2,100, which is almost 30% over the course of the last month. And a lot of that just has to do with the move towards decentralization, the expansion of the DAI token. We're seeing a lot more stable coins be minted, and the Maker system, it actually makes sense how you mint coins. So I don't know how Terra mints their coins or whether or not they have, so it's a multi-fiat peg monetary policy. I don't know whether or not they're pegged to the dollar. It looks like they have Terra USD. I can't wait to see a stable coin that is not pegged to the dollar. Something that is stable, versus a basket of currencies, some moving average of fiat currencies rather than the US dollar. Because I think as long as we continue thinking in terms of US dollar, then the US dollar will continue to dominate our imagination of value. And as long as the US dollar dominates our imagination of value, then the banks will remain as powerful as they are. So, so again, I'd like to see a move towards stablecoins that are not US dollar denominated. But all right, so next we're going to talk about Engine, which is up 15%. So we're getting into the more reasonable, like 7-day appreciations. Like 15% is still quite a bit over the course of a week, but it's not, 50%. But this is one of the first times I'm looking into Engine, and it's an NFT play. And again, it's like I said earlier with Tezos. Anything that's like doing NFT stuff right now is going to be big. It's hard to say whether or not they will retain this growth and what's going to be built on top of it. Whether or not this is interoperable, I'm not sure. Looks like they've got some games built on the platform. Yeah, interesting. Maybe worth looking into. But NFTs are a way of doing games, more or less. I think that's going to be the main NFT use case. Like a lot of people are buying like CryptoPunks and crypto apes and so on and so forth. I don't really understand how those are going to retain value. What people say is that collectors like them. People have a lot of money to spend, and so they like having them. It's like a flex. I don't think like flexing on people is a good way to assess value in the real world. Like obviously like the super rich love flexing on each other by like buying Van Goghs and shit. And so you could argue that it's the same sort of thing. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe I'm not rich. Maybe that's why I can't get behind it. But that's my feeling on that. Not a big fan of the NFTs, but as NFTs move towards games, that is a good way to do it. If a game is fun and people want to continue to play it, I mean, like look at World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft has been around for more than a decade at this point. And there's in-game items. Imagine those in-game items were unique and rare and sellable. Like if Thunder Fury was something you could craft and then sell to people, like people would buy it. It's a natural market, as long as the game developers continue developing the game in a way that people want to play it so that the items retain their value. Those items have utility, right? And if an item has utility, then it'll have value. Outside of the ability to flex on your other like blockchain friends. So whatever. That's Engine. Seems interesting. I'll look into some of these games in the near future because I do like games. But I mean, one of the things is like right now we're seeing this big explosion in NFTs, but games take a long time to develop. Games take years, like 1 to 3 years at least, to develop like an interesting, fun game. And so I think the potential for growth is still pretty big, especially as we see, we've yet to see a good game. Like the closest thing to a good game right now is Axie Infinity. And yeah, people are playing it, but I don't think they're playing it because it's fun. Even if it is fun, they're playing it because you can make money, and you can make money. But when we start to see a game that is both fun and people can make money on, then we'll see I think a movement towards a little bit more mass adoption, a little bit more understanding of what NFTs are, and a little bit more value in these platforms. Okay. And Horizon. Okay, interesting. And this is more storage, it looks like. I believe. Let's see, what do they do? Most secure interoperable blockchain ecosystem. Oh, I see. It's a way of creating side chains. So when you think about like the Ronin Bridge, if you're familiar with Axie Infinity, the Ronin Bridge is what allows you to transact for a little bit less, for smaller fees than on the Ethereum main chain. It's what's made, Axie Infinity still like operable while gas fees are as high as they are is they have a side chain that does a lot of the the heavy lifting as far as like value transfer goes. And so, yeah, a platform for building side chains. This is meant to reduce this is like a system that you can integrate with, that developers can integrate in their projects in order to reduce gas fees on some of the larger tokens. So it's a way of transferring NFTs, ways of transferring tokens, things like that. That's interesting. That's certainly something that will be valuable. I understand why it's up 10%. Most of these, again, are either competitors or scalability solutions, because those are going to be the big thing, or they're NFT bullshit. But those are going to be the big things, like Arweave, right? That's storage. Storage is scalability. SIA, storage, scalability, right? Cardano, right? Smart contracts, so you could even understand Tesla, Solana, and Cardano as scalability solutions, because they all have implemented proof of stake successfully in a way that make gas fees not, transaction fees not as high as in Ethereum. It's why competitors are competitive right now, is because they're more scalable. And so the big question is, again, as I hinted at earlier, like, will Ethereum be able to scale? If it's able to scale, then all of these competitors are going to fucking fall by the wayside. But that's my top 10 gainers and losers for the week. Glad, again, hit me with any questions if you have them in the chat. Please pay the like tax if you haven't already, although I think everybody has. And no problem, of course. I'll answer any questions that anybody has. But let's move on into the news. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what is happening in Congress right now with the current legislation that's going through? And the answer is not much. There hasn't been a lot of movement on the infrastructure bill, which is where like the broker definition is happening in the Senate. That passed in the Senate, so now it's in the House, and it looks like there will be no amendments to it if it passes. It will likely pass, and it looks like there's going to be no amendments to it. There might be amendments in the reconciliation process, but that's still yet to be seen. That would be done at the Senate level. But it's hard to say whether or not there will even be a reconciliation process. What reconciliation means, by the way, if you're not unfamiliar, is the Senate passes a bill, and then the House has to also pass that bill. It can go either way. A House can pass it and can send it to the Senate, or the Senate can pass it and send it to the House. But both chambers need to pass the same bill in order to send it to the president and get it signed into law. I don't know if you guys watched I'm Just a Bill by Schoolhouse Rock. If you're an American. If you're not American, it's unlikely that you watched it. But that's how bills theoretically get passed. Obviously, there's not a lot of discussion of all the money and lobbying that goes into those efforts, but it's neither here nor there. Point is, the Senate passed a bill, and then they have to send that to the House. Once they send it to the House has to either pass the same bill or offer amendments on it and change the bill a little bit. But if the House changes the bill, then they have to go back to the Senate and they have to reconcile the differences between the two bills so that they both pass the same bill. Because otherwise you could pass a bill in the Senate and then you can completely change it in the House and then send it to the president, and it wouldn't be what the Senate passed, right? It needs to be the same bill. So if they change anything in the House, then there has to be a reconciliation process. And so that's what we're hoping for in the crypto industry. Because again, in the Senate, it passed with this very wide, broker definition, which is not good for the cryptocurrency industry in the United States. If we want it to be a little bit better, then there'll have to be a reconciliation process. But that's the thing, is it's very hard to get these votes. It was very hard to get that through in the Senate because of the filibuster rule, yada, 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 Democrats, Republicans, blah, blah, blah. Unimportant other than to say, if they change anything in the House, they would have to send it back to the Senate, and there'd have to be a new vote, which the Democrats do not want, right? They want it to pass. And if they have to send it back to the Senate, there's going to be more fucking Mitch McConnell and, Joe Manchin and, blah, 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 bullshit. So right now there's not much happening, but it is likely to pass in its current form. And it's hard to say what would happen, if it passed in its current form. I think it wouldn't go into effect until 2023, which means we would have some time to both lobby Congress and the Senate to see if we could get something else passed, which is unlikely. We could lobby the Treasury Department, which is headed by Janet Yellen, who fucking sucks. And so it's unlikely to change anything. But, you would see a lot of pushback from the cryptocurrency industry in the United States in general. Hard to say whether or not that would be positive or negative. But that's sort of the state of legislation in Congress right now. Next big story, Ethereum forks. So there was a bug in the Geth client, which is the Go Ethereum client, which makes up 75% of mining software. So the miners on Ethereum, 75% of them are using the Go Ethereum client called Geth. There was a bug in that, and so now there are functionally 2 Ethereum chains. You see about 54% of Ethereum nodes have not updated their code to get rid of the bug. And so now the longer chain, for a little while at least, was this non-valid Ethereum chain. It's likely that this will be reconciled as most miners switch back over, because there's just not, there's no reason to fork to keep the Geth bug. Ethereum Classic was created because people wanted to keep the DAO hack in place, because they would have stood to lose a lot of money if the DAO hack was reversed, which is why we have Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. But that same energy does not exist to retain this bug in the Go Ethereum client. So again, it's sort of a consensus bug. Created a fork which is tough on security. The chain security kind of sucks when you lose 50% of your mining power to a consensus bug. But this will likely resolve itself in the very near future, because again, the miners are not incentivized to keep that bug. And so as soon as they update their clients and download the new software, they'll start mining on the main chain again. It will get longer, and everything will be Gucci, probably. Something to keep an eye on, but not. You notice a lot of people didn't report on it, and I think that's to avoid negative price movements. People are afraid that that if the bad news about Ethereum just continues over and over, if they keep talking about it, then the price will go down, which fucking maybe it will, but it's certainly worth talking about. But again, not a huge impact, not something that worries me. And here we go. This is sort of exactly what I was talking about earlier. Stephen Curry, the shooting goat, bought a Bored Ape NFT for $180,000. This is theoretically a very rare NFT, both because of its zombie eyes and its tweed jacket. But he bought it for $180,000, and that's preposterous. You can see right here, this is what NFTs are selling right now. A lot of them are art blocks, which I have not even seen. I don't even know what an art block looks like right now. And then you have the Bored Apes up here, and then the CryptoPunks, because CryptoPunks are always popular for some reason. Don't know what these art blocks are, but yeah, I mean, it's hard not to see this as evidence of the fact that NFTs are just over. There's a huge NFT bubble right now. It's hard to say that these prices are sustainable, or why they would even be sustainable. I mean, maybe if you get it, you get it. And I know a lot of crypto people love these CryptoPunk, NFT whatevers. I don't get it. I can't imagine spending 155 Ethereum on my ability to say I own this, right? Feels like something you would just throw money at if you have extra money, and you how do you expect it to appreciate in value is my question. But whatever. Some people like it, so sure, whatever. I try and stay away from price predictions in general, and especially like price predictions about NFTs, because they're like, there's no utility behind an NFT like this. Like, these are pure speculation and pure like art appreciation, right? In the same way that I would never buy, like a $1 million painting. I'd never buy a Banksy, right? Like, I guess it might appreciate in value, but I care a lot more about the utility of the things that I'm buying than the aesthetic value of them. And I think that goes into like my fashion sense and everything like that. You can see I have this mustache, so I really don't give a shit about the aesthetic value of even the hair on my face. And maybe it's just a value judgment, but it's my value judgments where I am right now. So moving on, Bitcoin back at 48,000 after Jay Powell's Jackson Hole speech. Jay Powell, what? He's the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell. I don't know why this person thinks they know him on like a first name, like nickname basis. Oh, Jay Powell back down in Jackson Hole giving a keynote speech. But basically he hinted at the idea that inflation is going up. Not only is inflation going up, but the Fed is going to stop printing money in the way that they have over the course of the next year. And this is like sort of old news, but the more and more people see it, the more and more it's priced into the market. And so like Jerome Powell is saying like, hey, we're starting to see long-term inflation. At first they were saying that inflation was transitory, right? That because people stopped spending money during the pandemic in 2020, the inflation that we're seeing of like 5% a year in 2021 is transitory. As soon as 2022 rolls around, we'll see that number drop back down. We're not going to see these increases in prices and everything like that. But he's starting to hint at the fact that inflation, this sort of level of inflation, may not be transitory. It may be just inherent now, given that we've printed 50% of the money supply in the last year and a half. And so, that's not great for the dollar, probably pretty good for Bitcoin in terms of like being a deflationary asset versus an inflationary asset. Jerome Powell is likely going to be, like you see, it was reported top Biden administration officials were recommending Powell be reappointed atop the Fed, which means that we'll see consistency in that Fed policy, specifically about whether or not, it's going to continue to inject money into the markets like it has been. And it looks like it's not going to, which means that we might start seeing some credit crunches. We might start seeing some companies that are going to be a little bit illiquid because the Fed is not purchasing as many of their corporate bonds as they once were. Other good news for Bitcoin, Jack Dorsey, Twitter CEO, is planning on building a decentralized exchange for Bitcoin. It'll likely be on the Lightning Network, and it'll probably be a lot like Uniswap. And that's kind of cool, honestly. And Jack Dorsey, like, if it's a true decentralized exchange, that'll be pretty awesome. And I think Jack Dorsey may be the kind of person who would do that, who would make it totally decentralized. He seems like a Bitcoin, like, true believer. Obviously he's uber rich, which means that we should maybe approach him with a bit of skepticism. But obviously, Ethereum people fucking hate this. Because they want the decentralized exchanges to be exclusively on Ethereum and Ethereum native. But, a DEX that is based on like Bitcoin that has like chain interoperability would be fucking huge. And especially if it has the backing of like Twitter. If the DEX, has some sort of like Twitter integration, that's huge for like mass adoption and generally good for the industry. Again, depending on how it's implemented. So we'll see. We'll see how it's implemented eventually. I talked a little bit about MakerDAO. Already they're rallying. Obviously down over the course of the last week, but up quite a bit over the course of the last month. Their move towards full decentralization has largely happened at this point. And finally, Cuba accepting cryptocurrency, such as Bitcoin. And I don't know, like, if you have any thoughts about Cuba, please, throw them in the chat. I love Cuba, but I am, a socialist myself. So, big fan of this move, which will help them hopefully subvert some of these sanctions that have been in place by the United States that have been harming Cuba for quite some time. This is interesting. I talked about this like a couple of weeks ago. Stephen Deal makes this argument that that cryptocurrency allows people to subvert sanctions. And my counter argument to that is like, well, if you think that that's a bad thing, then you have to defend all sanctions, right? Then your argument is that sanctions, the United States federal government, imposing sanctions on any country is always a good thing. Their judgment is always correct. And I just don't think that's true. I don't think most people think that's true. And I think Cuba is one of the most glaring examples of it being not true. Of a country that started acting in its own interest and that the United States could not overthrow. And so they started a sanctions regime. I mean, you could argue that the same thing happened in Iran, right? Like Iran in the 1950s had a democratically elected, vaguely socialist leader. And he nationalized the oil industry. And, British Petroleum was none too happy about this. And, in American oil companies as well, like Standard Oil. And so the CIA engineered a coup, which resulted in, the democratically elected leader, president, being deposed, and the Shah of Iran, who was functionally like a king, being installed as the long-term leader. And this same basic trajectory happened in Cuba, except it was with Batista. Batista was a brutal military dictator supported by the U.S. federal government in Cuba, and it engendered a lot of pushback from the Cuban people and ultimately from Fidel Castro, Raul Castro, and Ernesto Che Guevara. And they organized a revolution which overthrew Batista, and then the U.S. started like a terror campaign to try and to try and depose Fidel Castro because he did like a land reform thing where he took a bunch of land away from wealthy American business people like United Fruit Company. And so when Castro could not be deposed, largely because there kept on being efforts to start a sort of like a internal revolution, but the Cuban people fucking loved Fidel Castro because Batista fucking sucked. And he theoretically freed them from Batista. He started nationalizing a lot of industries and reducing costs and redistributing land to poor farmers, developing the poor extremities of of Cuba, and implementing education programs, literacy programs, blah 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 blah. The United States didn't like it at all because again he stood in opposition to American capital. And then they imposed the sanctions regime, which has been in place for the last 60 years, which was made worse by Donald Trump, and then most recently made worse by President Joe Biden. And so, they're accepting Bitcoin now. They're saying, fuck you to the Western financial world. We're going to start using Bitcoin as a reserve currency and start trading among other South American countries, places like El Salvador, which has recently made Bitcoin a legal tender. Interesting development. Cool to see. Maybe means that Havana is on the places that I want to stop. My list of places to stop in the near future. But that's sort of it for the news this week. Not a lot of news, honestly. Like that Ethereum hack, I think was like sort of the biggest thing. But yeah, so I'm gonna end the stream in a little bit. Which if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, and I'll answer anything that you have. Otherwise, that's it for me. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. And I'll be back next week. Hopefully, and I know I say this every week with a little bit of a sexier stream overlay. But yeah, thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Hasta luego.